Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, honorable opponents and esteemed adjudicators. The motion before us today is that this House believes that FutureCare is good enough, and we as the negative believe that this motion is as flawed as FutureCare itself. And we believe that FutureCare is doing a disservice to our seniors, and we hold to our case line that FutureCare is unstable, insufficient, was implemented poorly, and is unfair on our seniors. Yet before I get on with my constructive and informative arguments, allow me to rebut some of the arguments of the affirmative team, starting with the points that they have gotten up and said that there were high statistics supporting the approval of FutureCare. Yet within the next year of this statistic, as me and my colleague have looked over this very closely, we have seen that there is over a 20% reduction in this approval rating, and it is closing at only a 41% approval rate for the FutureCare program that the affirmative team is raving so madly about. And they have also gotten up to us and said that there is no discrimination whatsoever in FutureCare. Yet why were the people on HIP who were moved immediately from HIP to FutureCare because government believed that they were poor, why were they allowed to pay a premium of $260 while the folks who moved on to FutureCare a year later were moved on to phase 2 immediately and had to pay $600? There's just a year difference, and some of these people may have been 64-year-olds who at that time were not eligible to get onto FutureCare, but they had heard about it and they realized that it was for a low cost at that time, and they wanted to get onto it. Yet there was discrimination because a year later they were forced to pay over double of what the people on phase 1 had to pay. And the second speaker also tried to dodge the question of our points, did not rebut what my first speaker had to say, and he has also been talking about fluff. Well, apparently the second speaker needs to clean the fluff out between his ears, because not only has he been failing to listen to us, but he also is not rebutting our points. He is dodging the question and trying to make FutureCare look like it is the fine, dandy, and rosy picture that the first speaker's painted for us today. No, thank you. And they've also said that FutureCare, the first speaker got up and said that FutureCare provides 100% medical care. But this number is actually 75%, and the 100% thing was a typo, a mistake. April 1st, 2011, this is when government clarified that the amount of medical coverage given in FutureCare was actually only 75%. And so now, on with my argument. So we've all heard of the rosy scenario that the first speaker has painted for us today, and we know that her grandmother was lucky enough to be moved to FutureCare and now had better health care. But what the first speaker failed to mention was that her little sister, who joined FutureCare a year later, now has to pay double the premium charged to her grandmother, and now for only 75% medical coverage for the same procedure.
Point of information.
No, thank you. Some of the main problems with the FutureCare system are the unfair cost to seniors and the poor implementation. FutureCare is no better than Major Medical and HIP, and because of this, we should not implement it. If we want another flawed system that is insufficient and unfair on our seniors, then we should stick with Major Medical and HIP and not waste money on a system that will not benefit us or our seniors, and therefore FutureCare is without a doubt not good enough. And so I ask the affirmative now. If you and your FutureCare program care for our seniors so much, then please enlighten us as to why FutureCare's budget continues to fall and the cost continues to rise. How did we get here, ladies and gentlemen? No, thank you. FutureCare started with what was called a means test. A means test is defined by the Cambridge Dictionary as the official process measuring how much income a person has in order to decide whether they should receive money from the government. So now let's talk about the supposed means test that went on for phase 1 of FutureCare. And this means test was originally designed to find out how many poor elderly people would be needed to move to FutureCare. The government made the assumption that all of the people on HIP were poor elderly people, and the original 2,600 elderly moved from HIP to FutureCare had been moved because government believed from this means test that never really took place that they were poor and elderly. They were moved on to phase 1 of FutureCare, and government thought that they could increase the price because they could not afford to keep FutureCare going. So this $10.5 million that the second speaker has gotten up to us and talked about is clearly flawed. And
point of information.
No, thank you. However, when government decided to go on to the next phases, these next phases were not means tested, if you could call the first one that, and the premium price was increased. And now in its third phase, FutureCare costs $365 a month, and many people who were moved on to FutureCare because government thought that they couldn't afford HIP are now becoming worried that they will not be able to afford FutureCare. FutureCare is becoming just as expensive as HIP at $395 a month. And what government really needs to do something good for our seniors for a change is put all the people on fund HIP on FutureCare at phase 1, at the phase 1 costs, because all the other phases that were supposed to advance FutureCare are clearly not good enough, as is the rest of FutureCare. And government is defeating the ideal of FutureCare, which is supposed to be comprehensive, inexpensive, and just for seniors, as the affirmative have clearly laid out today. Confusion is running rampant throughout FutureCare, and this program is not worth it. FutureCare may offer more benefits than HIP, yet if government wanted an insurance program that was all that they said they wanted, then none of these programs, HIP or FutureCare, is good enough.
Point of information.
Accepted. Wouldn't you agree?
I would not agree. I would say that FutureCare offers more benefits for less money than the private insurers. Like, what do you not understand about that
Sir,
point?
you were again dodging the question. This is what I had to say. I had said that FutureCare does actually give more benefits, but the price is rapidly increasing. Government is needing, no thank you, there is an aging workforce. Team affirmative, there's an aging workforce that will soon be on FutureCare, and government will not have all the money to pay for the $250,000 brain aneurysms that, according to the first speaker, occur every other month. So imagine that both my grandparents live in Bermuda. My grandfather was enrolled in HIP, and my grandmother was enrolled with a private insurance group. So when government decided that my grandfather was poor because he was enrolled in HIP, he was moved to FutureCare and had to pay a premium of $260. When my grandmother heard about how great FutureCare supposedly was and enrolled in FutureCare a year later, she had to pay $600. On top of all that, the premiums continued to rise over the next few years. Now, after April 1st, 2011, my grandfather has to pay $385 a month, and my grandmother has to pay $365 a month. Now what started as a way for the poor elderly people to save money has become just as expensive and probably will continue to become even more expensive until FutureCare is the same cost as a private insurer, no thank you, and certainly more expensive than HIP. And at this point, even the poor elderly people that government and Team Affirmative have taken advantage of are beginning to scratch their heads and wonder how much money, no thank you, government has taken from the hands of our seniors. And because Team Affirmative seems not to care about our seniors the way they want us to believe, then we, Team Negative, will show Bermuda how grievously government has taken advantage of our seniors. This is just another reason why FutureCare is undoubtedly not good enough. So now, ladies and gentlemen, let's look at some of the fundamental flaws in FutureCare with some questions. And if Team Affirmative would oblige to address these in their later speeches, then I would be much obliged. Is FutureCare sustainable and affordable? No. My first speaker and I have addressed this. Is FutureCare fair and consistent? No, we have addressed this. How can it be when a select few pay half the premium amount as all the rest? Is FutureCare Phase 3 ironic? And yes, is FutureCare good enough? No. Is FutureCare what our loved ones deserve in their golden years? No. Then there is the problem of the aging workforce. The dependency ratio is increasing faster than predicted because the resident population is shrinking and the younger population of working-age people are leaving the island. So we can expect a lot more people to be on FutureCare within the next few years, and this will be a huge financial challenge. It is for these reasons that we, Team Negative, question the belief that FutureCare is good enough, and it's for the reasons that we have stated and will go on to state that we know that FutureCare is taking advantage of our seniors, and we know that this motion has already fallen. Thank you.